You have to put a seat in the belly of the women and push it inside with your dick. People who had no sex education at all and had never ever seen the opposite sex's special parts. How do you know how sex worked, if you did at all, and which parts were supposed to go where? How did your first time go? Hey ho, my bro is back. So glad you can join me for another story time. It's been too long. Can you do your boy Andrew a favor and destroy the like button? It really helps the channel. If you do, I'll buy you a free lollipop. Enough sweet stuff, let's get into these stories. Farm kids learned by example unless exceptionally dense. I remember my little sister asking why the bull kept trying to jump over the cows. I remember learning from porn that the testicles do not actually go in the vagina. Just glad I got that little tidbit sorted out before my big moment. I had only seen sex on TV. And of course on TV they never show them actually having sex, so I thought people just viciously tore their clothes off and then lay in bed naked. I grew thinking all humans had penises. Like I was even shown a vagina one time, and I thought they had tucked it in SMH. When I was 16, I was lucky enough to have a girlfriend as inexperienced as I was. All we knew was that we wanted to do naked, sexy stuff together. It took a few nights, but we figured it out. Serious reply. I figured it out while shopping for hose connectors at Lowe's with Dad when I was maybe 10. I knew little more than boys have a penis, girls have a vagina, a kindergarten cop. Male and female pieces, the male end goes into the female end, my inner voice goes, why do they call them male and female? Oh. That makes sense. An interesting story from history. Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI had a notoriously difficult time conceiving a child. They were married for years before it happened, even though both were seemingly fertile. There are a variety of theories as to why, but one is that they just didn't know what to do. As the story goes, Marie Antoinette's brother finally gave Louis the talk, and they were able to conceive. When I gave my first blowjob, I didn't know what coming was or that it was a thing. Eventually I got pretty bored and stopped, so he told me, "You're supposed to go until I finish," and I remember thinking that's rude, how am I supposed to know when you're finished? He didn't, and I learned what he meant about 6 months later, lol. I didn't know that I had to be wet. It was a bit awkward when I first decided to do it, but we took it nice and slow, and he was very understanding until the right day came. Edit. I thought when two people decide to have sex, they what do it. So when I said, "Let's try again," he thought I meant that I was already wet and we tried it. The right day was that both of us were in the mood and ready to go. I am in my 20s, so we had to take it slow on all the first attempts. A slightly unrelated story about my friend. I was a year older than her and told her everything because I had discovered it at 13. She was stunned and in complete denial and was about to go and tell my mom that I'd told her about sex. She kept saying, "This is disgusting. My parents could never do that. You're lying. I'm going to throw up." She was literally shaking and took hours of convincing to get her to not tell my mom. I was homeschooled, raised with cattle, and fairly conservative Mormon parents who did not acknowledge sex. Having participated in several artificial insemination procedures by the age of 10, I thought for the longest time that pregnancy happened when an illiterate cowboy brought a teeny baby cow and shoved it up the ass of a mama cow, or when one got married you requested a baby and a cowboy would show up at your door to shove it on up there. Luckily, we got the internet in 1998, and I finally learned that a woman got pregnant when a man with a mustache came on her face. Didn't receive any proper sex ed classes at school or any talks from my parents. I just accidentally stumbled upon porn when I was really young. Like in middle school, elementary school, and as I got older. I did research on the female vagina. Mainly just studied the diagrams and learned how everything worked. So you can say I self-taught myself. My first time was still pretty bad, but it could have been much worse. I understood how sex happens at 13 years of age when a girl whispered it in my ear. That was also the day I realized that I had a vagina. Needless to say, I was stunned. The first time I saw my boyfriend's penis, at 20, I was again quite surprised. I had never watched porn and had been expecting something entirely different. So, even though I shied away at first, within 24 hours I was pretty pleased with it. First time sex was very painful, way more than expected. But the second time was good. My boyfriend knew how things happened and I was very open about communicating. Honestly, I have had sex maybe 3 times without orgasm. Oh, and the boyfriend is my husband now. I grew up super duper religious. My mom didn't even really explain what my period was. I went to school and they provided information like sex ed and period education, but I never really got it. From the diagrams, I never figured a penis would get hard. So for years I honestly thought that both people would lie on their backs and kinda Jenga their genitals together yoga style. But then I was like 14, and I found out that a penis can go from soft to hard like what the duck, is it a solid or a liquid? Turns out if you do it right, it's both. Somewhat related, but the first girl I started doing stuff with made me wear a condom while giving me a handjob. She made it out to seem to be the normal thing to do, and I guess it made sense because it meant cum didn't go flying everywhere. However, it made things really awkward with the next girl I was with, and I pulled out a condom when she was playing with me. She was like, "Whoa, I'm not ready to have sex with you yet." And then I explained that I wasn't trying to mean that. She informed me that was a bit weird, and it totally killed the mood. In my country, parents don't really tell kids what sex is, so we just had to ducking discover it ourselves. The first time I heard it was when I was in 2nd grade. About 8 years old, and a classmate told me about it as if it was a groundbreaking discovery. After that, things just escalated. When we reached the age of 11, puberty ducking smashed into our sexuality, and to this day I wish my parents had told me what sex was because oh boy do I cringe at the things I did as a teen. Edit. I've already written this in the replies, but since people keep asking for it, I'll write it here. Well, it's not really me being super sexual story, more like the lack of it. We have a female classmate who was really sexual and dirty. She was also probably discovering her sexuality. She was pretty cute, and she would always make dirty jokes at everyone, male or female. One time she was stroking a water bottle and told us that she bets it's something we boys do, and I deadass said, "What's that?" I didn't know you could masturbate at that time, I just knew about sex, and everyone looked at me and laughed, and that's how I was known with the nickname Jacolis for a year. Jackal means fap in our dialect, and they're basically calling me fapless. And that, friends, is why I have social anxiety. EDIT2. I'm from Philippines, many people have been asking. I went to an ultra-religious school. I don't think the word sex was said once in all 12 years of school, except maybe during biology class. My knowledge of sex came from reading. Internet forums were really helpful actually, even just reading about other people's sex lives. I know that sounds creepy. I watched porn, but I also had read enough to know it was unrealistic. My first time was actually great. It was with my boyfriend, who I love and trust. We spent a few months without doing PIV sex, just oral and hand stuff, while we learned each other's bodies better and until we both felt ready. And when we finally were, it was wonderful. I used to have panic attacks pretty often in the beginning due to trauma, and also the way super religious places duck up your mindset about sex, and he would just stop and hold me for as long as I needed. The first time, he insisted that I be on top so that I feel in control, and if it hurts or I am panicking, I can just stop. He is an amazing man, and I am so glad my first time was with him. It was horrible. I would sincerely feel bad for my first boyfriend, but he was just as horrible back, plus a jerk. I think it was a combination of us not having any idea about sex, both of our home computers being in common areas, us being raised Catholics, and him being a jerk and didn't like talking about it. Like so many things could have been better if we just talked. First time I stroke his dick, it was a bit too fast. He of course returned the favor by clawing the inside of my vagina with his freakish long nails. I licked his dick like legit licked, thinking that was a blowjob, and he just insulted me without telling me how it was supposed to be done, so I think he didn't know either. He pushed himself in hole while I was dry and was confused I hated sex. After several attempts, and it's still hurting because I was dry every time, he wanted to do anal to avoid any chance of the birth control and condoms not working. Months of dried, all at one shove in dick anal that hurt, led to bleeding and diarrhea, and gave me PTSD. Towards the end of the relationship I tried begging for him to just stop. I'm pretty sure the horrible sex is why he dumped me. Luckily for me I discovered sex as soon as we broke up, and it had never been painful again. So do your future stupid kids a favor and give them sex education. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the story time? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more story times.